Hello everyone! So for today's card I'm using the new Roberto's Amigas image. This is called Huh. They're a new line through CC Designs Over Stamps that were just released this month and they're super cute. I love them. So this is the first one I decided to use and I inked it up with some My Favorite Things Black Licorice Hybrid ink and stamped it onto CC Designs Copic Quality cardstock, and then I'm going to use my Copic markers to color her in. And this time I decided to give her a more tanned skin tone, so I'm using E11, E13, and E15, and always working from lightest to darkest. Basically just getting the color on. It always looks so messy in the beginning, and then as you start to blend it out, it looks so much nicer. So put on the lightest color, the medium color, then the darkest, and then I go back with the medium to start blending it out, and then finally go in with the E11, which was my lightest, to blend everything together. So really, really simple. I'm using the 110 pound here, which is what I just tend to reach for, just out of habit, because I'm usually popping things up on dimensionals, but the 80 pound works wonderfully as well. I just like to use the 110 pound most of the time. So once I did all that, I took a little bit of R20 and added it to her cheeks. With this shade of skin, it's a lot lighter. Usually you'll need to use a darker pink if you want like blush to show up more. But I just left it kind of as is. And then for her hair, I went in with E23, 25, 27, 29. And again, lightest to darkest, just kind of flicking the color in the direction kind of, you know, based on the lines here of her hair. So just back and forth with it until I was happy with it, and actually leaving a little bit of white here and there, which I rarely do. I just have a hard time with that. But I left a bit so there's, you know, a pretty stark little bit of highlight there in her hair. And then once I'm done with the hair, I'm going to start doing her clothes. Oh, and I used R20 and 22 for her lips. And then for her outfit, I started with R81, R83, R85 for her cardigan. So, and I chose the colors based on the pattern paper I'm going to use. I always get asked if I do how I choose, what I start with. I had the pattern paper laying out, so I'm choosing colors to go with it. I always find that easier. So I generally pick the pattern paper before I even start the card, and then find all the colors to match. So I did her little cardigan, and then her top and her shoes I did in Y32, 35, and 38. I left her skirt alone on purpose because I'm going to paper piece it in a minute. And then I took RV 95 and 99 just to do her little accessories. So again, everything's going to like match up the pattern paper. And again, I pre-planned paper piecing her skirt because there's this floral pattern here in this RSVP pack from Basic Gray that I absolutely love. So I inked up the stamp again with the hybrid ink and then just stamped it onto a corner of the pattern paper here. And then just trim that out with scissors and then trim around the edges. This is a really easy part, or really easy image to paper piece, like this skirt especially, because it's pretty much just straight lines. So I trim along the outside of the outside lines, and then I trim along the inside of the line there at the bottom of her shirt so that it looks more like it's underneath the cardigan the way it's supposed to be. So hopefully that makes sense. And then a little bit of Tombow Monomalti pops that right into place. And always, always make sure, especially if you're using Copic markers, I add a little bit of shading to the pattern paper so that it kind of blends in with everything else and looks like it fits rather than just kind of floating there. So I used my W3 and W1 Copic markers, and then I used the same markers to draw in the ground. So just W3 and W1, and then I took the 1 to go around parts of the image as well. And then I blend that all out with W00. And yes, as always, Caitlin is in her little playpen here in the room and has to make herself heard. So blend all that out, and that's it for the coloring. So then I go on to the sentiments, which is from my new Rumor Has It set, which several of them coordinate with these new images. So lots of fun, somewhat snarky sentiments that I thought were quite clever and hilarious. So I inked up the one and used my stamp positioner to just stamp it right there onto the cardstock. And then I took another sentiment and stamped it onto this yellow cardstock that I found in my stash that kind of went with a pattern paper. So stamp that, and then I'm using one of my Favorite Things Circle Stacks dies to trim it out. So just tape it into place so it won't shift when I run it through my die cut machine. And then I've got more pattern paper from the pack. I thought that numbers paper fit rather well with this theme of card. So, and I also took a strip of just black cardstock, and I always use my kind of grid line mat there to help make sure I've got things lined up straight when I adhere it. And then some AmyR's pink cord that I got from CC Designs not too long ago. I showed it in a haul a month ago, something like that. So wrap that around the main panel here, trimmed off, and then again just regular old Scotch tape to tape that into place. And then I'm gonna wrap another piece around there and tie it in a bow. And this is where my camera battery completely died, so thankfully it makes a little bit of a noise when it does that. Otherwise I would have finished the card without even knowing. But changed the battery on my camera, came back to finish the card. So got the bow the way I wanted it and trimmed off the edges there. And then I wanted to add one little bit more of pattern paper. So I just chose this purpley stripey piece, so it wasn't too busy to kind of interfere with everything else that's going on. And just adhered it so a little tiny bit was showing. And then I'm going to adhere this to the number paper. And then this is going to get adhered to the card base, which is again the CC Designs Copic Quality 110 pound cardstock. Oh, and I used a little dimensional, not little, one of the big dimensionals that I always get from Jody. I linked to her supplies with all the rest of my supplies. It's the Sticky Stuff store, so I love my Jody boosters, as people like to call them. So yeah, back to the card base, the 110 pound cardstock, which is what I always use for my white card base because I love it. So I'm going to adhere this down. I thought about putting it up on foam tape, but I decided to adhere everything flat since I've got, you know, the cord going on and the one sentiment popped up. And then for the inside of the card, I had a piece left over of that numbers pattern paper. So I adhered that to the inside of the card and then stamped this. This is one of the rather snarky sentiments, but I thought it was funny. So inked that up and again used my stamp positioner to stamp it on the inside of the card. And then I've got a few other little sentiments in the set with like hashtags and that kind of thing. So I trimmed one down and decided to stamp that as well. So I used my stamp positioner and I just stamped that kind of along the side of the pattern paper here, and that finishes off the card. So as always, there will be the supplies listed below in the description box, as well as a link to my blog post where all the pictures will be posted and the supplies and all that good stuff. As well as links to the new stamps on the CC Design store. So thank you guys so much for watching and subscribing, and thumbs up if you like my videos, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!